O'Neill. 2 L's. I serve the SGC under a General Hammond.
We're explorers. You see, we're from another planet.
The unstable vortex of a forming wormhole. Kawoosh.
Indeed.
Hi everyone and welcome to the Kawoosh podcast. I'm your host, Arne and this is...
I am Evie.
Also a host.
Also his wife.
And you might know us from this little show we do on this channel, the Wayland Files. But this is another franchise, one I've been a fan of for a very long time. How about you?
Yes, because we're old. That's why we've been a fan for a very long time.
And did you see the movie before you saw the show, or...?
No, you made me watch the movie after.
Did I make you watch
Yes,
the movie?
you made me watch the movie after we started the show.
Oh.
Which is probably why I didn't like the movie as much.
Yeah.
Because I watched them in the wrong order.
The characters are different.
Yes.
Yeah, that's probably something we're going to bring up in the podcast. Yeah, I saw the movie first.
Yes, you told me.
I remember seeing it on, it was late night on TV and I watched it. And then later I heard there was a TV show, but it was on a cable channel I didn't have. So my aunt recorded it for me. And that's how I saw, I think, the couple of first seasons.
Okay, so for the younger generation watching us, there used to be a time that you couldn't just watch what you wanted on TV. You had to wait until it came on.
Yeah.
Were dark times.
And I had to return the tape to my aunt so she could record the next one, and then she would bring it over to me. It was fun times.
This is why we have so many DVDs, because we want to keep this.
I was very happy when they started bringing them out. And these ones, the Belgian ones, they have the Stargate on the side, on the spine. And then they ran out of space for season 9 and 10, and they had to figure something else out.
Well, they could have just still done like this little bit. I don't understand why.
Me neither.
It's been bugging him forever.
Anyway, so we're gonna start at the beginning, which is the first episode, the pilot, Children of the Gods.
Oh, you wrote down the episode title. That's smart. I didn't do that.
Final cut. I don't have that one. Maybe that's something we can do in the future if this podcast takes off. But this is the original airing, so there's gonna be some problematic notes along the way. So, yeah, the show started airing in 97. So, yeah.
How old were we?
I
Math.
was 13?
Oh, good. You did the math. And I was 14. Thanks, hon.
So, yeah, the show opens with a poker game down in the basement where the gate is. And of course, the gate starts rumbling and plastic flies off. And everything rumbles. I know that this will be fixed in this episode, probably for budgetary reasons. Because of making your set rumble, I imagine, will cost a lot of money.
I wrote down that I love the gate reveal because the gate effect still holds up. Sometimes you see these old shows and they have these effects that make you go, oof. But this one was really good.
I think they put a lot of money in this pilot. I think we can look it up how much it was, but I think it was a pretty generous budget. The next episode will be like mostly in one location, probably because this one was very expensive to shoot. Also just saw that these guys started with an episode order of 2 seasons. They had 2 full seasons ordered.
Wow. That doesn't happen anymore.
No, that's 2 years of certainty, and pretty soon after they got another order for 2 years. So they started off being certain they had 88 episodes to do, which is a nice way to start off your series.
Again, for the younger people, seasons used to have 20 episodes or more. And they came out weekly.
Yep. So yeah, gate starts rumbling.
I really love that word.
Yeah, rumbling. I love it. And of course, some bad guys come through it. These we will get to know are the Gwauld.
And they have really cool theme music.
Yeah, I know that too.
The music in general in this series is amazing. Like
Also,
just the gate music.
The armor they have on the snake heads is really well done in this one, and it's functional, like it opens up and everything.
But I can see why they don't wear it all the time, because you can just see that sometimes they're at risk of toppling over.
Very top heavy. And they start scanning the one woman in the room.
Profiling is what that is.
Yeah. And this is where we meet Apophis. This is gonna be the big bad guy for, I think, the couple of first seasons at least. And we meet Teal'c, which we
Teal'c.
don't know yet that it's Teal'c, but he's in there. And the first time we hear the words Jaffa and Kree, so I made a note of that too.
Oh, you're running a counter for that? Okay.
No, I don't have a counter, but first appearance of. They also have the glowy hand weapon from the movie that comes back, and they have a big shootout where they kidnap the female soldier. And this is gonna be a constant for the series. They were pretty action heavy, and pyrotechnics and guns was their whole thing. So I really like this episode. Episode opening. It's not done yet. And we see Hammond for the first time when he enters the room to see what's going on, and Apophis exits the scene with glowing eyes. Very ominous.
And then we run into the opening theme.
Yeah, and it's the same theme from the movie, reworked by the new composer a little bit, and it's the same thing opening of the movie with the Mask of Ra, which is a bit funny because the bad guy is not Ra anymore, but okay. And they keep this for a couple of seasons before they go to the clip show opening. And then we arrive at O'Neill's house, who is on his roof watching the stars. Not really sure why, because I don't believe it comes up again.
But this was before cell phones. They had to go over to his house to say, like, you have to come in, because he wasn't picking up his phone because he was on the roof. That's how I interpreted it. If he had a cell phone, it wouldn't have mattered if he was on the roof or not.
Yeah, but it's O'Neill. He's gonna ignore. I mean, he's pretty subdued in this scene where they come pick him up. He's not the O'Neill we're gonna fall in love with later on. I feel.
But I feel the bare bones are there, and I
Yeah.
already like him more than when he was in the movie. He was very angry in the movie, which,
Yeah.
considering the backstory, is correct.
But he's still walking the line a little bit, like being a little bit like Kurt Russell, because we have the backstory with his son.
That
It's
was
still
Kurt Russell?
Stan. Yeah, it's Kurt Russell. But he's a bit more jokey, but not as much as in later seasons. And they bring him in, which is great because they can show off their huge set with like these walk and talks and steady cam shots.
It's always a great idea to introduce a new or semi-new character into a show, because then you can use them to be all like, hey, look at all of our stuff. We're cool. I also wrote down straight into the sun trauma.
Yeah,
Because they were just like, hey, remember this dude has a kid that is dead?
but it did start off with a joke about classified missions. Hammond asks if he was ever going to write a memoir, and then Jack says, well, I'd have to shoot anyone who reads it. So it's a bit, they follow the backstory, but you can see that Anderson is already laying down some more of a jokey attitude in there. Then they show him the dead bodies and the gold weapons, which of course he recognizes, and he kind of recaps what happened in the movie there.
Which I very much appreciated, because I haven't rewatched the movie. I think I watched the movie exactly once when you made me watch the movie.
Really? Well, we
No.
we should rewatch it then.
Man. I mean, I like the series a lot better than I like the movie.
Yeah.
It's just,
It really opens up the world, and it's a lot more fun than the movie. But yeah, this is apparently a year later, we learn in this scene. And they brought also Kowalski and Ferretti from the movie, although they're different actors here. And they start asking about Daniel Jackson, and they continue to recap the movie.
again, appreciated.
Yeah. And of course, the military wants to know if everybody on Abydos, the original planet, is dead. Because they're gonna send a nuke to take out the bad guy. And then they start this bluffing game. Hammond bluffs the truth out of O'Neill, which I thought was very... Hammond is still very an angry military guy here.
Yeah.
And he will grow to be more of a fatherly person along the series. But this was a bit of a shock to me rewatching this, because I remember him as being more of a fatherly figure, and here is very military in this first one. But yeah, I love the actor. And O'Neill tells them Ra was killed above the planet and Daniel is still on Abydos. So we have a reunion between Kowalski and O'Neill. Ferretti gets a mention there, but we don't really see him until later, and they start talking about Skara and the relationship between O'Neill and Skara. Again with the dead son, the recap of that. And then O'Neill convinces Hammond to send the team back with a probe. And of course O'Neill has a better idea. He sends back some tissues.
Yes, because Daniel has allergies. This will never ever come up again after this episode. I counted his sneezes and they were exactly 3 sneezes. And I'm gonna count them, but I'm pretty sure that he's gonna miraculously heal in the upcoming episodes.
Yeah.
Anyway.
We also have the first appearance of Gary Jones here. Here is the unnamed gate technician who opens the gate and
Best
does the
gate.
chevrons.
Best
Yeah.
chevron encoder.
He really has the
Follow.
same story as O'Brien in The Next Generation and Deep Space Nine. As he starts out as this one-off character, makes an impression, and they just keep writing him in. It's
Writing him in. They don't keep writing him.
They don't keep writing him? Well, they should have. So, of course, the box of tissues gets sent back with a message on it, and they send the team.
When are we gonna talk about Professor Carter?
Next, because we get this heroic shot of O'Neill in his military uniform, and then they do the big meeting, and that's where Carter arrives.
Right, I forgot exactly where.
Yeah, this scene didn't really age well.
I don't know. Seeing it in the context of when it was shot, I could give it a pass.
They
Also
really,
because I know
yeah,
where their relationship is going.
yeah, they did try, but you can feel that it's 2 men writing this, and there's not really a female writer in the room, and they later on they also realize that this is not dialogue. This is not how women talk. So they even make fun of it. I think it's in series 8 that they make fun of this exact scene. So she grows, but yeah.
Yeah, and I remember way back seeing it. At certain points, you were just happy to see a woman in that series, and you're just like, okay.
Well, she does start out like she's immediately you notice she's smart and she's capable. It's just the way they portray it. Like you have the macho dialogue with Kowalski and Ferretti, but she has the techno babble on the go, and it works on a functional level, and it sets her character. But I think it was maybe nowadays we're used to better, I think. But then again, she had a chance to grow over all these episodes, and now if you don't set your character in episode 1, you only have like 8 episodes to do it. So then back then you had 20. So yeah,
It'll be interesting to see.
yeah, it's really Amanda Tapping that pulls off this role. I do believe that any other actor could have maybe flubbed this, because
It also the chemistry between the
Yeah.
actors too. Like any other team might have not worked.
you can see in this scene that the chemistry is already clicking between Anderson and Amanda Tapping. That works. So yeah, they get a 24-hour time limit because of course we need a ticking clock to make the episode exciting, and they go through the gate. Big music, and as you said, the effects still hold up.
The effects still. I got Sliders flashbacks.
Yeah,
It
they,
just-
they have the long version here, the same as in the movie. It's probably a copy of the movie, and they're gonna shorten it along the way, and
And then sometimes when it's a really far planet, they lengthen it up again, like as if that matters.
exactly, it's a farther wormhole.
And also, still here, they still get cold and nauseous after they come out, which also gets fixed really quickly. They just stroll through mid-conversation later on and then just keep on talking
Yeah.
as they walk back out because they were done with all of that hassle. Just jump through and roll and duck and just leave
I
it.
did like how Carter is like Jackson was in the movie, and just fascinated by the whole thing, and he's and but here O'Neill just gets impatient and pushes her through. Yeah, and on the other side we meet Daniel Jackson again. What? I must say it's a spot-on performance by Michael Shanks. Apparently there were people who didn't realize it was a different actor from the movie.
Okay. No, I knew it was a different actor. I just was reminded violently how I did not like how his whole story was written. Like, he just happened to have been given a wife on this planet who is... See, I'm getting upset all over again.
Yeah, and they have to deal with it, and I think they found...
Yeah, and they deal with it by having something happen to her,
Yeah.
and then she becomes the damsel in distress. So they fix one stereotype with another stereotype, which is not something that I... Like, I would have personally liked it a lot better if she was like, oh, you can go home, bye. I don't know. That would have just like, yeah, I'm gonna miss you, hon. Just.
Yeah, I also wrote down that she's very demure. She
Oh my
hardly
gosh.
has any lines. I think she was possibly better portrayed in the movie than here.
And then he also makes a point to say she was the only one who didn't take any crap from me. It's like, no, that's not what we're getting from this character at all. Like, she used to roll on the floor laughing when I tried to do anything, and everybody else saw me as a god. Like, this woman is literally trying to wash her feet while you're talking to us. So, you know,
But that might have been a directing issue.
Yeah, it's not the actress. I mean, you can't work with what you don't have.
Apparently, she was up for the role for the movie,
Okay.
but didn't get it. And she was approached afterwards for the same role, but in the series, and here she did get it. Which is, kind of weird detail, but... Then they find the DHD, or they get shown the DHD, and Carter gets the MacGyver line, which I always thought was pretty funny.
The MacGyver lines are always fun when they happen.
And then they tell Jackson what happened back on Earth, and Daniel says they didn't come from here, but of course there's a storm, so they have to reconnect over a big meal. And Ascara is back too from the movie, and this is the same actor. We have Alexis Cruz reprising the role as Ascara,
Okay,
which
cool.
was very fun because he has a good energy. I like him a lot.
Yeah.
And it's also fun that he gets to do a lot more here. He will grow in the coming episodes when he gets to be the bad guy and stuff. And he gets some real acting moments, more than he had in the original movie, I think. Where he was just a feral kid.
Hey, feral kids are fun.
And they have the Skara giving back the lighter, which I think they have a lot of nice details connecting the movie with the series, like making sure that this all fits.
Yeah, you can tell that they had an audience in mind that they were definitely aiming for.
I think they were also big fans of the movie
Yeah.
and really wanted to explore it. And this is also where Daniel mentions that there are other gates and will show them what they found. And then we
Which-
have Shari kissing Daniel passionately.
And then everybody whoops as if that doesn't happen like 5 times a day. I don't know.
It's a year later and it's still a big deal that she kisses
Yeah,
him.
which is, I don't know.
Yeah, it's kind of repeating things from the movie
Mm-hmm.
that the relationship with Shari doesn't really work. I don't feel it has evolved. If it's a year later, it doesn't feel like it evolved.
Oh, I was gonna say, Daniel is very much the character that gives the exposition.
Yeah.
And that keeps going throughout the series for...
That's
that's
kind of
basically
his-
his
yeah.
job. He's
Him
the
and
one.
Carter.
Yeah, but I don't mind as much if Carter does it. I don't know. He's...
But they're different.
Yeah, they do it different.
He's more nerdy, I think.
I always get a sense that if somebody would interrupt him and say you're wrong, he would just explode. I don't know. He's
Yeah.
very much like, I am correct. This is the truth and nothing but the truth. Well, in my head, a scientist would be more like leaving room open for
But that's
interpretation.
that's
I don't
very
know.
much American writing of the time.
True,
There's
true.
gonna be a lot of instances in this series where they just assume they're correct.
Especially with things like translations too. They can just point at walls and go like, this says this, while a real linguist would be like, this word could either mean horse or hand, depending on the context. But that you just can't do that in writing, or you can, but
Well, you
it
don't-
wasn't done
You don't
back
have the
then.
time for stuff like that, but the American correctness of arriving somewhere and telling the other people that what they're doing in their culture is wrong is a thing that's gonna come back.
And also to me, I know it's just convenience sake because you are working with actors and you want the audience to hear English because you're making an English show. But when you arrive on the planet and everyone started speaking English for Daniel's sake instead of Daniel learning the language of the people where he ended up with, it wouldn't fly these days, I think.
Then again, if you're doing a Planet of the Week type of show, you would have to repeat that story beat every week. And I think
it was just in that instance, he'd been living there for a year. Like, even just making a throwaway joke, like, he's really bad with languages, dudes. Like, he can translate it, but, like, he just can't, his pronunciation sucks, so that's why, I don't know.
Even in the movie, that wasn't really a thing. She corrects him on some of the pronunciations.
I know my expectations are just way high. And also, I don't like Daniel, so, yeah, that's gonna come up a lot.
So, and well, while they are at the room with all the Stargate addresses...
Which is a really cool room. They really had a lot of budget.
Yeah.
Because...
That is a very big set for maybe one use.
I do think they reuse panels later on. I think it's paneled up or something.
Yeah.
And then they just have a big storage unit and they
but
make
it's very obvious they were really showy. Like, there's a lot of big shots, like the pyramid looks very, very good, and it looks exactly like it was in the movie. So they put their money on the screen for the pilot. So the gate opens and Shari and Skara get kidnapped by Apophis. Big fight. Shari just gets grabbed.
Yeah.
No real fight there. But Teal'c recognizes that Skara has a weapon from Earth, so they take them both. And Apophis punches in the gate address, and Ferretti, although wounded, is the one who sees the address. And Daniel returns.
Again, if they had cell phones, he could have just taken a picture.
It's 1997.
I know!
This is also the first mention of the Chopper Eye.
The Chopper Eye.
As far as I know, I don't think they said it in the movie, so they gave it a name.
You keep saying things about the movie and then looking at me like I'm gonna help you there. Like, you're on your own about the movie.
Of course, Daniel here has to feel responsible, and then Jack orders Daniel to return back to Earth, but he wants to find his wife. It's a bit of a beat. It's very cliche, but we need some motivation for Daniel to return. And
Did we? Did we really?
And then he tells the people of Abydos to bury the gate after they're gone. Tearful goodbye. I did like the line that, but you came through it, Daniel.
Ah, that was cute.
That was very well done. It's like, these were big actors and they gave it their all.
I wrote down that there was a promise made 1 year and they were going to uncover the gate and come back. I'm going to keep Daniel to that. I don't remember if he ever comes back because we watched this when we were young.
They do come back at some point because the guy who plays the father of Shari returns. There is an episode where he reprises his role as the father.
I just wrote it down to see what happens to that promise.
So they return to Earth and the gate already has some updates. It doesn't shake anymore.
Yay!
So that took a long time.
Well, I do like the stabilizers they put on there.
It does give the whole gray room a bit of a color pop with the red. And they have an iris now, which is handy.
It's also very CGI.
Yeah.
It's very CGI.
I think they have both a practical iris and...
Yeah, but that one doesn't move.
Yeah, I think they close it with an effect, yeah. But yeah, 1997 CGI for TV, not that bad.
No, not that bad. I've seen worse in more recent movies.
Yeah.
Wolverine. Anyway.
So yeah, Daniel wants to be on the team that goes after Apophis.
Which is the worst idea ever, because he is compromised. He has ulterior motives. This is the point where they take you off the case. He's too close, and they should have just taken him off. But
Yeah.
no.
I wrote down Hammond is still angry he can't retire soon.
But because
Yeah.
then Daniel goes along with the mission and he doesn't listen and he deviates instantly. I would have shot him in the leg and just left him there.
That's just you.
That's probably just me.
So we cut to the bad guys. They have a lot of prisoners in this more medieval looking set, although some of the other sets are more Roman and Greek. But
It looks like they borrowed it from Xena. And now I do wonder. But that was a whole different country, so no.
Yeah.
But it does look like something that I've seen in one of those sets.
so yeah, it just doesn't yell Egyptian.
No.
It looks very nice though. It's
And also, I wrote down that all the extras that they have in that prison, there's a lot of variety in there. They really do give you a sense of these were kidnapped from all different cultures and worlds.
Yeah.
They really put their effort in there
That's
to make to give you like a hint of there's this vast network of worlds out there. And also they're not used to a lot of resistance because this is their setup. They basically shove you in a cell and they have 5 guards and that's it.
yeah, that's also a bit of a. It does. They do find other people with a high technology level, but in the beginning, it very much feels like Earth is the only planet standing up to the Goa'uld.
Well, I mean, this is an American show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Canadian. It's filmed in Canada.
Yeah, okay, but it...
Same deal.
No, but, you know, it plays in
Yeah.
the United States.
Teal'c leads the guards and they take away Shari, and I wrote down he makes sure he doesn't get shot. Honorable man. I'm not sure
I
what
think the kid tries to intervene, and he goes like, no.
Right, yeah.
He's like,
Skari-
don't do that.
Yeah.
It's not gonna work. You're just gonna throw away your life.
Right, Skari wants to
Yeah.
get in between, yeah.
Yeah.
And then we cut back to Earth where Daniel feels lost and Jack takes him home. I wrote down there's a very nice detail that Daniel sneezes while he's on Earth. Because it's not his home anymore. Because he sneezes when he travels.
Okay.
I
I
thought,
just drew a line.
I know you don't like Daniel, but
No!
but I was like, oh, that's a nice detail because for him it wouldn't be home anymore. So those kind of details I really love.
Mm-hmm.
And they have a lot of dialogue that builds up Charade. I don't know. I always have the feeling that they could have shown this
Yeah.
somehow.
With use of the actress, you
Yeah.
know, instead of having 2 men talk about... Oh, I don't know.
Yeah.
She's kind of a lamp.
Yeah.
She really is a lamp, which is a shame.
We have some backstory on O'Neill, on his wife, which is, I think, a first because even
Yeah.
in the movie they... Oh, no, in the movie she's there. Right.
And then she's gone.
And then she's
because-
gone. So that's why they have the scene here. Again, about his kid. For the heavy subject matter it is, they really pull it off. So it's a light touch. It's not overly dramatic because that's not what they're trying to do.
But they're also not shying away
Yeah.
from it. And for it being the time frame that it was, like actually acknowledging that gun violence is dangerous. Well, gun safety.
Gun safety.
That's...
Yeah, that was actually kind of unique, I think.
It was unique because this is the time where Gargoyles was not allowed to air an episode in which one of the gargoyles accidentally shot someone. Like, it was a good message and they still pulled it because, oh no, you know. Anyway, I'm digressing into other
Oh,
old
no,
series.
it's fine, it's fine. We cut back to the harem, and we see that the blonde soldier from the opening is here, and she's the one that gets taken to Apophis, because apparently he wants a future queen.
Well, his
So-
queen wants a new host
Yeah.
because she does get final say. Which I appreciated. I mean, it's not just her husband saying, here, wear this. Like, no, she gets final say.
So we have one note of empowerment in this scene where
Well,
somebody
he does
gets...
go, does she please you, my queen? And she's all like, no! And I'm like, okay, fine. Like,
Okay, I don't like blondes either, but harsh.
and then you can just see him being disappointed, but he's like, yes, yes, dear.
He was apparently really into blondes.
Maybe you don't know how long they've been there either. Maybe he's just like, just pick something so we can go home.
Or maybe he's just happy that it's not another black-haired woman.
I don't know.
I
It's
don't know.
like,
But yeah, for some reason she does need to be undressed for the appraisal.
yeah, that's a very bad scene. And
This is the better one of the two because we don't see anything here. This is all tastefully from the back, and everything that is dangerous to see is covered. But this is where we see the pouch with the symbiont for the first time.
and I wrote down gold effect still holds up. Like that is a well done belly. That's
Yeah.
a very strange sentence to say.
But those puppets were really, really well done, and they hold up. It's the times they go for CGI, and even for the time, it's okay.
Yeah.
But the
I-
quality of the puppets is really good.
Puppets are always like until a certain level, puppets are always better than CGI, and that might just be because I'm old. But a puppet is there. Like
Yeah.
an actor can react to a puppet.
And depending what you need it to do.
Yeah.
Here it works perfectly, and the belly is nice and gross and really realistic. Yeah, I wrote down very cool practical effect. And they even do a tilt down from the face to the belly. So there's no cut in there. So I don't know how they did it. Probably maybe they built out the belly or something and hid it in the clothes. So there really is a big pouch or something, but it's really, really well done. And yeah, the wife doesn't like blondes, so she has to go and dies, apparently.
Yeah,
They kind of skip over that. So she gets taken, she's not good enough, and she just disappears.
yeah. I would have thought that like you just maybe put her back in the pool because there's other people shopping.
Exactly, because that's what we see
Yeah.
later on, that they sell the ones they don't use, but apparently once she says you're no good, you...
I don't know. Yeah, maybe you just I don't know.
Yeah. So, cut back to Earth, another meeting around the big table, and then Daniel starts saying that he thinks there's more of Ra's kind, and they do a retcon of the movie, because there it was very clear that he was the last of his kind. He was also not a snake monster in there, but I always... I never minded this retcon, because it opens up the world a lot. Saying he's the last kind of gets you in a corner.
Yeah, and you know, you never can tell if somebody is the last. I mean,
Exactly. So, even as a kid, or even now, I don't feel it's a problem. Yeah, he tells them they all present as gods to the people, and they have the gate address book now. So that's nice. They have
I wrote
Yellow
down
pages.
they have 2 or 3 new destinations a month. And I thought, oh, that's handy for a weekly show. That like every week they get like, here, we have a new planet we can explore. It's like...
yeah, and they will have 9 teams that go on missions of reconnaissance.
Which
And-
is weird because we never see 9 teams. I think sometimes we see 1 and 2 working together, and then sometimes 3 or 4 get in trouble and 1 or 2 have to go and help them. But I never even see someone in the background going like, hey, yeah, I'm Team 9. I don't know.
No, they do feature in some of the seasons,
Yeah,
but mostly,
okay.
yeah, like you said, they have to come to rescue them or something, or they're mentioned, but we
Yeah.
never really see them at the same time. They're never present in the base, only when we need them to be.
Yeah, which makes sense, of course.
Yeah, it's
but-
a lot of actors. And their team is SG-1, so title drop. And Daniel demands to be on the team, and Kowalski gets SG-2.
I can understand him demanding the team. I just don't understand him getting the team. But
Yeah.
again, you know, they have to have him on there because that's how, you
It's
know...
a bit contrived, and they're all very, very hardcore in this one, I think.
yeah, they do mellow out.
Yeah.
Until
And-
they
yeah.
mellow back up. That's not how you say that, but...
And Ferretti is conscious now, so he was already figuring out the address, and this we will learn is Chulak. So it does get mentioned in this first episode that this is the home planet of Teal'c.
Okay.
So I'm just like doing first mentions of stuff, if I can remember to. They do get another 24-hour time limit. I don't know, maybe their clock only goes up to 24.
they're very hard on military time.
Yeah.
Remember? And I just always love that because like for us that's normal time, but they kept the way they say it is so weird. Like 0800 hours or like just say 8. Like just say.
Yeah. We also get some exposition.
Say that again.
Exposition on the code transmitters for the Iris, so we get some technobabble about how they need to use it. And Daniel gets to go, of course, even though he's a liability. New planet, and we have a gate that goes on location, which they will use a lot.
That gate, or
That I think they have one gate that they can transport, and they use it everywhere. They get another Kleenex joke in there. Don't remember which one that was. It's been a while since we saw this one. Scheduling the recording was a bit of a hassle.
which is weird because we live together. You would think this would have been easier, but stuff just kept happening.
And I wrote down that Daniel is very much the same as he is in the movie, but it is nice to see how he will evolve. I kind of understand why you don't like him now. I do have a feeling he gets better.
I wrote down Daniel should have stayed at the Stargate and figured out the symbols instead of tagging along and being useless and then coming back and be like, oh, I should figure this out or we're stuck. Like, you could have just...
But that's gonna be like the running theme that they
I know.
always need to figure it out while under fire. They never figure it out up front.
I know. And after a certain point, you just have to be like, you have to be better at this than...
You would imagine.
Yeah.
So we cut back to the harem, and this time, of course, it's Shari that gets chosen by Teal'c. And this, I wrote down that, hey, now she fights back suddenly. And this is, of course, the full frontal nudity scene.
Yeah, that's... First of all, intimacy coordinators were very much not a thing back
They
then.
did not exist back then.
And I am very glad that they do exist now. It's a very important job.
Also, if you know the backstory behind this scene, it gets even worse. So apparently the guys from Showtime, from the channel, went behind the backs of the showrunners and got her to sign a full nudity clause. She signed a contract to do a topless scene, and they forced her to do it fully nude, and then they, after the fact, they got her to sign that she agreed to it. Because Showtime was an adult channel, and they could show this, so they should show this, and like,
Yeah. And, you know, there's always people that say, well, she could have just said no. Not if you still
No.
want to work in that industry. There's points where they just work you up against the wall and then...
they really
Yeah.
they really like drove her in a corner and convinced her and wore her down.
Which
it's
is not
very
okay.
gross. And this is one of the scenes that they recut in the final cut. Like they took the nudity out
That's
because
good.
the showrunners didn't want it. It was never their intention. They were also forced to do this, and they took it out again. So
Which is good. And you would think that this is an old problem, but apparently even in shows that are very recent, you hear stories coming out that you think like Game of Thrones did what? Excuse me?
I think it's way too common.
Yeah. So again, I'm very happy intimacy coordinators now exist and are a thing.
So yeah, I wrote down the symbiont is still a cool effect. And then they put her on her back, and then they turn her around again. No, what did they do?
Are you confusing yourself?
I'm
Is this
confusing myself because I was
Why-
like, this is very complicated. They have her stripped down, turned all ways, and then in the end, the stake just goes in the back of the neck. So that means she could have stayed fully clothed the whole time.
Yeah, but you just said they wanted...
I know.
You know.
It's just to show how forced this whole contraption of a scene was. And then the Jaffa woman who carried the queen, I was like, what happens to her now?
Yeah, because it's a very big point that if you're not carrying a symbiont as a Jaffa, you die. So what happens to her? Does she just like quickly goes around the corner and gets given a new one, or is she just collapsing behind the scenes?
It's a really cool addition to the whole thing, to the world building. But this tiny detail, they say it, but they don't come back to the fact that
Well,
maybe she dies.
yeah, but maybe we just are. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe we care too much about random characters.
The team arrived on the planet and they come across some travelers in the woods. And Daniel goes to talk with them because he's an idiot. And they
Thank you
kneel
for-
when he says Chapai.
Which makes no sense.
And then he gets annoyed because that's Daniel. Maybe he should have repeated it louder. And then, they get taken to the nearest town, which is Chulak, apparently. And from the outside, the city looks more like a Roman city, and so do the interiors. And there's this big banquet. And then the Serpent Guards enter with Apophis and Sharae as the new queen, which is a really cool reveal, by the way.
It's a cool reveal, and then Daniel does something else stupid.
Oh yeah, then he tries to talk to her, but her eyes glow and they get captured, so there's that.
Nobody could have foreseen this.
Yeah.
No, I mean, sorry, everyone could have foreseen this.
And now we get into the bit where they cut back to Earth, where Hammond is getting very worried. And
It's
we see
okay
the-
though. He has a guy next to him who counts down the clock, even
Yeah.
though they have a clock. He just follows Hammond around. It's like, sir, we only have 8 hours left. Like, I know, dude, I can read the clock. Like, you have to stop it now. No, we have a
No,
clock.
but they had a very long walk because now it's only 2 hours, but they still need to escape and get back to the gate. It's like time.
I mean, I appreciate Clock Guy. He's really, he was given a job and he was gonna do it, but
It's the military. You can't pick your job.
just
So our gang is in the big cell with the rest of the prisoners and Skara. And then Tilk confronts them and sees that they have strange technology and he wants to know where they are from. And then Daniel draws the symbol for Earth in the sand.
he could have just said it, but
You mentioned like they have it on their shoulder.
Also, they have patches with the symbol on it, and he's like, "I will draw in sand." Like
But
Daniel,
it's way more dramatic, and then
it's right
Tilk has
there.
to wipe it off.
Yeah, it's like, "Oh no, don't show it." Like it's right here.
And then we go back to SG-2. It's morning apparently, and Kowalski is not leaving without the Colonel.
Can I just really jump back right quickly? Like, suppose you're just going to other planets and you're exploring, and you don't want people to know where you're coming from, but you have your home address.
It's like when you have a kid and you write your phone number on.
If lost, please return to.
In the cell, Daniel recognizes that this is Apophis, and he's apparently the god of night, so he's the adversary. I wrote something completely different.
Bad guy.
He's the opposite of Ra. That's what they were going with.
Okay.
Really nice, but in the end, they're just gonna throw everything at the wall for these guys.
Yeah.
Skara wants to fight, of course, and he wants to find Sharae. The cell door opens and soldiers come in and line up. Ooh. And some of the other Quaould come in now and they choose the Children of the Gods.
In a
Another
very
title
weird
drop.
way, I find. They just walk through it like,
Yeah.
yeah,
This one, I want this one.
yeah, okay.
And even Apophis and Sharae get carried in like this walker thing, and then they just leave again.
Yeah.
I don't really know what they were doing. And of course, everybody needs to kneel. Jack and Teal'c share a look. Daniel wants to get chosen. He wants to be the... he wants to be with Sharae, but he thinks something of the host must survive. And then Teal'c gives this like really subtle nod, like no, to
I
Jack.
love how we're supposed to care about Daniel, but it's Teal'c that just steals the whole shot just by being...
He has such presence.
He's-
He hasn't had a line. Well, maybe one line
one or two
so
lines,
far.
but his presence and his minimalistic acting, and it's already so good, and he just gets better throughout the series. He's really...
But charisma counts for a lot. Mm-hmm. He just carries that role.
Because you can just see that he is tortured with what he has to do, and he hasn't even said anything.
From the first time, even from the opening scene where we see him, like, there's hints there that he doesn't really like what he's doing. A bunch of the kids get taken, and of course Skara among them, and the rest is to be executed. So yeah, and Jack convinces Teal'c to join them and fight the guards in a prison break. I wrote down that even while Teal'c and Jack start shooting the guard, apparently for the other guys the priority is the unarmed prisoners. They keep shooting at everyone except the ones that are firing back.
Maybe it's a point of we were given an order and our leader just turned, so there's nobody there to give us new orders, and they just block. I don't know, maybe it's that. Like, oh no, what do we do? I don't know, just keep doing what we were doing.
Shooting, yeah.
I guess. I don't know.
It's a thing that most of these TV action scenes have. It's just like shoot in all directions, and like they don't have time to put a lot of choreography in there. But it works as a very chaotic scene, and I really love this moment where Teal'c like turns. They all die and escape through the wall. No, that can be right.
They dive through the wall. Maybe it's that. But they run to the Stargate.
And I love that shot of Teal'c still inside, and you see him through the hole, and he doesn't really know what to do next. Like he didn't think that far along, and Jack has to convince him to come along. So he does, and then they race to the Stargate, and they want to rescue Skara. And then we go. Of course,
Daniel wants to rescue Skara.
No, that's Shari. He wants to. It's Jack who wants to rescue Skara.
Okay.
Their names do sound alike. Then we go back to Earth for another update because apparently an hour has passed. So
we need our guy to tell us how much
ticking
time.
Clock, and then Teal'c explains what a Jaffa is and that they are bred to serve so the Goa'uld can live. I love that whole society. Like it's fun.
It's not current at all either. It's like this whole population
Rich people
keeping the rich people up. It's like, who would have thought of that?
Yeah.
That's I also wrote down, because the Goa'uld symbiont gives you long health and a good life until it dies, and then you die too. And I wrote down, how are Goa'uld with celiac disease? Because if I could eat cake, I might just
You
do
would
that.
gladly
Yeah,
take
it's a
symbiont?
trade-off. I would like consider. Yeah.
You would live longer, too. Yeah.
I mean, you'd also never be alone. You'd have a buddy. I don't know. I just miss cake.
Yeah, but you do realize that they have to meditate and stuff. Like, you're not able to sit down for 5 minutes.
No, that's gonna. Unless it also fixes my ADHD, because then I could sit. Okay.
Did you know that the Kelno Ream, the meditation that he does, was written into it because Teal'c had so little lines that the actor Christopher Judge just fell asleep at the table when they did all these big meeting scenes, and they were like, "He's doing Kelno Ream." It's very funny, but have you ever seen Christopher Judge in a behind-the-scenes video?
Probably.
Because he is not at all like Teal'c.
He is not.
He
smiles.
He has ADD. He can't shut up.
It's so funny. The first time I saw it, it's like, oh no, he's like me? How does he act so well? It's amazing.
Anyway, they get to the gate and there is a ship already hovering over it, and they use the rings. Another callback to the movie.
I love the rings. It's like the Stargate, but vertical.
Vertical, yeah.
It's awesome.
And
horizontal? Never mind.
They come down vertical.
Yeah.
And Skara is there with the Goa'uld, and that ship is really well done. I think it's a model. I'm not entirely sure. Or they may have mixed CG with models.
I was looking at the rings.
And they have a big action scene with the glider, the big explosion that we'll get to see in a lot of opening credits in the future.
Yes, they paid a lot of money
that
for
was
it.
a very big explosion.
It's okay, they dove away from it though.
Very heroic.
No ear damage or anything.
Yeah. And they arrive right at the gate as Skara is walking through it. And they
His eyes glow.
Yeah, and they go up to him, but he has been taken over and he shoots Jack. And then they go through. Yeah, we need some loose threats for the future, so... and then somebody notices the patch with the Earth symbols on Daniel's arm. Oh, no, you did. Wife notices. It's not a character.
Me.
That's
Me.
you.
I am wife. You write me down as wife?
I did. And then back on Earth, it's almost time to close the gate. Ooh. And on Chulak, the enemy forces are closing in, and Daniel needs to start figuring out the gate as usual, even though, well, they know their home planet, because in the movie the whole thing was they needed to know which
Yeah,
planet
but there
to
was
go
there
back
was
to,
there was
but-
drift. Remember the drift? They had to recalculate for drift.
Yeah.
They already knew this a while, but he's like me. He's like, okay, this is really becoming a problem now. So now is the time that I'm gonna do it.
Yeah, but I wrote this down too. Like the only thing, the explanation we get from the movie and from the series is you only need the last symbol is the point of origin. And that was the whole thing in the movie. They need to find the point of origin. So in that case, I was like, you know your symbols for Earth, so you actually only need to find one symbol. So how long can that take?
Is it long enough
I
to
don't
keep
know.
it interesting? I don't know.
They just needed a big action scene, and then Daniel starts trying. There's lots of fighting, and the gate opens just in time. But now they need to code for the iris to open up, and then there's a lot of tension because the iris is closed. And then Carter sends the code, and it opens up on the other side. And Carter is the first one through, and she stops the soldiers from shooting the civilians that come along with them because they brought some of the prisoners with them. And then there's a whole lot of shooting, and Kowalski gets infected.
I forgot about that. I was so upset because I liked him.
Yeah, that's a good actor. You know where he's also in Independence Day? When they get to Area 51, there's a guard at the gate. Mm-hmm. That's the actor.
Huh.
And there's a Sabretooth lookalike.
I liked him. I was like, oh wait, the X-Men are here. That's cool.
Yeah. And then Teal'c immediately surrenders his weapon when he gets through, and Jack is the last one, and they close the iris, and you hear the impact from the Jaffas coming through.
Tunk, tunk.
That's actually kind of brutal.
It is brutal. It's not the last time that happens either.
Mm-hmm. And then Hammond is confused because of the refugees, and especially Teal'c. And then Jack immediately says he wants him on his team. Hammond is not so sure. Kowalski is a bit woozy, but says he's good.
But I don't feel like I can understand not wanting Teal'c on your team because he is an alien. He is one, an alien. Two, he's a traitor.
Yeah.
So, but since he let Daniel on the team, I mean, there's no reason
But
for him not to let.
They do make a whole thing of this. This is gonna be for the next couple of episodes. They're not trusting Teal'c, and
Which is fair, but
Yeah.
you also have Daniel as a liability on there, and technically also Jack because he wants to find someone too. So that makes the entire team problematic.
but looking back as a kid, I was like, oh come on, Teal'c is he's clearly a good guy. He's cool. You have to have him on the team. But looking back as an adult, it's like, yeah, it makes sense. And a lot of series didn't take the time to do this. Like, it's not logical that in episode 2 he's already on the team, so it'll take a little bit of time at least, and he has to kind of prove himself.
But it does make sense for him because he has this drive of I'm gonna free my people, I'm gonna fight the suppressors.
That's also it's already there, and it's gonna be huge. It will take the whole of the series. And then we have an SG-1 hero shot in front of the gate. And they say they were gonna find Skara and Sharae to set up some future events. And the last shot is Kowalski with glowing eyes.
No, I wrote down Kowalski. No, I was upset.
So, looking back, I was so confused. Terrell Rothery is not the Doctor in this one. In my head, she was always a part of SG-1, and in this one we see a Doctor, but it's somebody completely different.
Yeah, because we do see the sick bay or whatever they call it, the med bay.
So I think she probably got cast after they did the pilot, and she's a series regular after that, but she was not in the pilot apparently. So, what do you think of the main cast? Richard Dean Anderson.
No, you're using real people now.
Jack.
No,
Jack.
Okay, cool. I like Jack a lot. And knowing how he makes me laugh in later episodes, I know we're in for a good ride. And you can see the bare bones are already there.
Yeah.
And the chemistry between all of them is really important too. Because he plays his lines completely different depending on who he's talking to.
It's a good team.
Yeah.
And then Amanda Tapping, only female on the team. So I'm really glad we're going to get the Doctor later on. But
Yeah, but even, in their eyes, in the writer's eyes, back in those days, that was 50-50 for them. Like, we have somebody, so,
Did
we're
you hear
cool.
the story that they were doing a fitting and she broke down? So those same show guys from Showtime were putting her in all these tight tank tops and stuff for
Oh
the
my
fitting, and she didn't get it. She was like, "This is not this character. What? Well, why do you want me in these clothes?" And she apparently she broke down in tears, and the person for the clothing, for the costumes, was like asked what was happening, and she told her like, "I don't get it. Why do I need all these clothes? This is not the part that I thought I was gonna be." And that woman went to the showrunners and explained what was happening. So like, and they went back and was like, "No, we don't expect you to put these clothes on." And they gave her a normal costume and reassured her that that was not the role. But it needed Amanda Tapping breaking down
Yeah.
to get to the point where everybody was like, "No, this is the character. She's a scientist. She's a soldier. She's not a sex symbol."
And she really is, because she is a solid member of the team. She's one of the smartest of the teams. And I
Well,
don't just mean brainy, because
the
Daniel is
smartest.
brainy, but he does dumb shit.
He's
And
naive.
He's
Daniel is
naive. And Amanda really is like the rational brain. But she doesn't become the mother of the team. I do feel
No.
that is because
No.
that's also a stereotype that sometimes they slip into, that she becomes the caretaker in that sense, but that's not that's not her role.
Even the will they, won't they that they're gonna fall
Yeah.
into, they write that line.
Yeah, it doesn't become like, oh, there's a woman in there, so she has to have a love interest. I never really felt it that way, because they do write that will they, won't they really, really nicely. And also, you already have Daniel in there going like, my wife, it's fine.
So yeah, next on my list was Michael Shanks playing Daniel Jackson. You don't like Daniel Jackson.
I do. He's not that bad. I can see where he's coming from as a character. I think my problems mostly with him, I'm back looping on myself, because at a certain point in the series, he goes away, and then he comes back. And in my eyes, they never should have brought him back. He overstays his welcome, which again, not the actor's fault. If they're gonna offer you the job, you're gonna take the job. But
Well,
in my eyes, he becomes this indestructible force within.
He did himself. He thought that his character was pretty much played out after 4 or 5 seasons, and that's why he wanted out. And then I'm not really sure why he came back. I do like that the Daniel that comes back is different.
Yeah, but I don't know. Maybe I'll
It's at the cost of another great character, because his replacement, in my eyes, is just as good as him. He's a lot of fun. He's another alien on the team, which is another good point, because it's a sci-fi show, so it's fun.
I don't know. I have a lot of issues with Daniel, which, again, not with the actor. But
No,
he becomes
it's-
like this overpowered D&D character in your campaign, almost.
It's a bit of a stock character.
Yeah.
And they have to, because he was like that in the movie, and it gets to be more actiony and maybe a bit too actiony,
Yeah.
because there's a certain point where he's just as gun happy as the rest of them, which is weird. Christopher Judge, well,
I love him.
legend.
Legend. Because I was gonna do an Indeed tally, and I was very upset to realize that there is none in the in the pilot.
Well.
He never says it.
Yet.
Yes, I'm gonna keep an eye out, because every time he says it, it's just brilliant. He does it so well,
Did you know that he was pitching a spin-off show for the character?
and he never got it.
No, because the property has changed channels and owners so much, and it's property of Prime now, because
Of course it is.
Yeah, MGM is now Prime, and it just got lost in the shuffle.
Of course it did.
So Don S. Davies as General Hammond, I think he has not found his character yet.
Not yet, but I do like that he makes the timer run out and then he comes back on it. Because if he was truly
Yeah.
100% military, then they would have been dead.
Yeah, that's true.
It would have been the end of that. So, and I do like his little red phone that he uses to call the president. I love that.
So Yeah.
He's gonna grow in that.
Final thoughts on the episode?
I wrote down Stargate gurgles. I love that the subtitles say that it gurgles.
It gurgles?
It gurgles. I saw that and I was like, ah, it does gurgle. I think the episode really held up. Like,
Yeah.
if you look through it thinking like, okay, yeah.
And it amazed me that there's a lot of setup for stuff that's gonna come up or they're gonna use. So they cleverly built the world up as far as they can, and they know just they're gonna be able to riff on it later. So this was developed by Jonathan Glasner and Brett Wright. And it's funny because they apparently had separate pitches for a Stargate series.
Okay.
And MGM was like, oh, guys, but maybe you should work together and bring me a pitch. And they did. And that's what we got with this pilot. I already talked about that there is a recut of this episode. So the final cut of Children of the Gods is available. We don't have it.
But it is better.
Yeah, they apparently also wanted to restore the original score. So the score for the pilot is not what they had in mind. And so the other one has the original score, and they ended up repairing scenes, moving things around, took the nudity out. And this DVD release also has the very first ever DVD commentary by Richard Dean Anderson.
Okay, but we don't have room
We
anymore.
can just move this a little bit to that side.
How many DVDs do we have? How many titles are in this room?
About 1,500.
No, say that again, slower.
1,500?
Yeah, that's
Thereabout?
about. Yeah, that's about right.
Another tidbit I wrote down. The actress that plays Shari apparently was married to Michael Shanks for a time after
Wait,
meeting
who's
him.
Michael Shanks again?
Daniel Jackson.
What?
Yeah, so they met on the set of this one, and they
Okay.
apparently got married for a while.
For a while. What is
For-
a while?
I have no idea. A couple of years. And it's funny because his now wife is also in the series. She's in 9 and 10 playing the new Doctor.
Did he just not have a social life? Did he just
I,
have to
I
pick
do
him up
think
at
that,
work?
I do think that if you're a working TV
I know,
actor
I
and you
know.
have to do 22 episodes a year,
Also,
I don't think you're home much.
also, if you meet someone who is also in the business, they understand your schedule because it doesn't really happen a lot that you can successfully date outside of somebody who understands that your days are 10 hours and plus.
O'Neill in this series only has one L. In the movie, the name was spelled with two L's. And apparently it was Richard Dean Anderson who wanted to play him like that. And they did it to really differentiate the two roles. There's actually a joke later on
Okay.
about another one with two L's, but he's a lot less fun.
Nice.
So we're going to get to that.
Okay.
Gary Jones as an unnamed technician here, but he will become Sergeant Walter Harriman.
Chevron 2 unlocked.
And the fact is that he has multiple names through the series. And it mostly is Richard Dean Anderson just ad-libbing names at him.
Oh gosh.
And the Harriman is because they called him Airman, because he's Navy. No, he's not Navy, he's Air Force. They're Air
Okay.
Force for some reason. And so he's an airman and just got in there and it ended up being Harryman.
Is the guy already in there, the stunt coordinator?
I haven't seen
I
him
haven't
yet.
seen him either, but I remember seeing him in the series all the time.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
we have to watch out for him.
Mostly carrying a big wrench.
Yes. And getting knocked out. I remember thinking as a kid, why is it always the same poor dude? Like whenever the Jaffa infiltrate their base, it's always him standing there getting knocked out. And I was like, oh no, he has the worst luck. But no, it's just the stunt coordinator. So of course, he's going to be the one getting knocked down.
I love that. Also, there's episodes, I think it's Matthew Wood, the director, and when he would direct an episode, he would also play a technician, and he would hang out with that guy, and they would have this really big wrench that the two of them would be carrying around. So that's something to keep an eye on if you see the two of them.
Okay, look out for the big wrench. What is like a storyline that you remember or an episode that you remember very fondly that you're looking forward to rewatching in
There's
this?
so many. I love the Asgard. love meeting the Asgard and bringing in those Norse mythology things in there. Later on, the Atlantis stuff is one of the things I really love.
That's a good spin-off.
Yeah.
Like, as far as spin-offs go, that was a really strong one.
But I'm really curious to rewatch this first season and see what the standout episodes are here, because I remember more stuff from the later seasons, which are also with bigger budgets and more CGI and ships flying. You don't really have that in these first seasons, but I remember there being really, really solid stories.
I'm looking forward to one of my most favorite episodes out of the whole thing is, I don't remember the name, but they get stuck in that time loop.
Yeah.
I love that one. And what I also just in general love about this series is you have standalone episodes. Like, you can just watch them on TV and you have the entire story. Meanwhile, series now, they have this everything has to have an overarching thing. And like Planet of the Week, Monster of the Week, we don't have that anymore. And I miss that. You could just zap on TV and like happen up on something.
And if you don't like this one, just watch again next week and maybe you'll like that one.
And if you miss an episode, that's fine. Like, you may miss like little details, but you're not gonna miss the big picture. And later on, I know they get all these big, like, because the Ori, I'm not looking forward to the Ori. But maybe that was because it came at a time when everybody was throwing extra religious people into their storylines and being like, you will burn in hell. Like, yes, we've seen it before, and I don't know. I'm not a big fan of the Ori. But that's okay, they're like over here, right?
We'll see if we get there. It took us weeks to record this one. So.
Again! I mean...
At this tempo. No, I'm really looking forward to rewatching it with you.
Aww, yay. Are you gonna write wife again in there?
Of course. Wife tells me I'm doing good job. Stuff like that.
I don't remember saying that. That's not it.
It's in the notes.
It's not in my notes. All right.
Okay. So where can people find you on the internet?
Well, people can find me. I am Evie Belknap everywhere. I am on TikTok. I am on Blue Sky. I am no longer on X because no. I am on Instagram,
but not active anymore.
I should probably get back to it because unfortunately there's not many alternatives yet. Where are you?
Well, you can find me as Iradonian on I believe it's Blue Sky and YouTube, of course. And then you can find me under Arne Keustermans, which is a mouthful, on Instagram. And I don't know why I changed it, but I did. So there.
You can change it back.
I know, but everybody knows me myself. We'll put all of those things in the description. And let's see each other again next week, and we'll be watching the second episode.
What? We're going in order?
Yes, we're going in order. I do believe that this one follows through on the Kowalski thing. So we need to find out what happens to him. I don't think it's good, guys. So, see you next week.
Make the kawoosh sound.
Kawoosh!
Yay!
That's not how it goes.
I don't know.